Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about makeup brushes and makeup sponges, every single makeup brush that you should really keep with you and why you should use a brush versus a sponge, the ones that I keep with me, and a couple extra that you might want that I don't use, or a couple that I use that you might not like. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Here we go. Right into it. I wanted to really show you guys how I use each brush and why I think these are the most essential brushes to have, and there's other brushes you can have if you're doing a more extravagant look, but this is pretty much going to be the ones that you need to keep in your makeup bag for everyday use. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start off with some eyeshadow. And I'm going to be using, actually before I even do my eyeshadow, I'm going to be putting some concealer on my eyelids just because I have some discoloration and some veins that you can see through. So I'm going to put a little dot there. So where my eyelids, I'm going to go in with this type of a brush. So the really cool thing is most of the brushes I'm going to be showing you guys, I got in a pack on Amazon. I think it was like $11.99, and it gives you so many brushes, and they're not cheap quality. Like, they're really good brushes. And when I say they're not cheap quality, I mean that they don't fray off on your face when you're doing your makeup. So because I just put concealer down, I'm going to be taking some eyeshadow to kind of like set the base so that I don't get these creases within my eyelids. I'm going to push this down, and I'm just going to be taking a nice natural color, and this is a great brush for blending and for putting eyeshadow all over the eyelid, and it's super easy to work with. It frays out at the bottom, and if you just hold it down here, then it makes it super easy to use. You don't really have to work at this brush. It kind of does the work for you. I'm going to start to go in with a dark color. So with a dark color, you're going to need to be using, if you want to do, just in finite areas, you're going to be using a packing brush. I'm going to be using this one. It's, as you guys can see, it's pointed at the end and it's pretty firm. So this is a really good one to be using. You can use, you can also use this type of a brush to pack in that eyeshadow. It depends on the look you're going for. So if you're going for a smoky eye and you just want it here, you should use this type of a brush. But if you're going to be going across the eyelid the way that I do my darker colors, you're going to be wanting to use a flatter brush like this. And this brush really packs on the color, as you guys can see. And I keep my eyes open and I just do a little crease. And that's why I prefer to use this one over this one, because I really like to get it right into that crease. Okay, so after you're done packing in the color with this type of a brush, you're going to want to go back in with that kind of frayed brush we used at the beginning, and you can use an angled one if you would like to get more of a smoky eye effect, or you can just use this regular one that's straight if you don't. I'm going to use this regular one because I just want to blend it in. I don't want to create any type of smoky eye look. Not only is the type of brush you use for different things very essential, but how you hold the brush. So earlier when I wanted that kind of lighter look, I held the brush down here. Now because I'm really trying to blend out these colors, I'm going to go scoop my hand down toward the front so I just have a little bit more control and I can put a little bit more pressure. Done with your eyeshadow, I like to clean up the sides. It's just a personal thing. I like to use this roller. Okay, so now that I'm done with my eyeshadow, I just wanted to show you guys a couple different brushes you guys can use for your eyeshadow that I didn't use today. This is a really good brush if you're really trying to get very sharp lines and you're really trying to pack in that makeup. This is a good brush to wet down and then put on like a glitter type eyeshadow or something with a little bit of a sequence. You guys have already seen these two ones. These are just blending eyeshadow brushes. They work really well. This is also a little bit smaller. This is a good brush to get like a fine line for eyeliner. I like to use a liquid eyeliner, so it already comes with, my liquid liner already comes with a brush inside of it, but if you don't have one, this would be the perfect brush to use for that. Also, you have this brush, which is going to be a good brush to get that smoky eye packed in the corners and then kind of blend that in that crease. This is also a really good blending eyeshadow brush. I don't like it as much because it's a lot shorter bristles than this one. So it's a little bit more difficult to work with. And this one just feels a lot nicer and easier on the eyelids. So this one I feel like doesn't drag the makeup as much as this drags the makeup. This blends more. And then just another different type of packing eyeshadow brush. So it really depends on the kind of looks you're going for, how many brushes you're going to need. So that's why you really should probably keep, I'd say about 3 eyeshadow brushes are pretty essential. You're going to need one that you can blend with. You're going to need one that you can pack with, whatever type of packing brush you like. And then you're going to need one that you can really get fine packing with or put on like type of sequence. So you really need 3. And the cool thing is if you do have more, you don't have to clean eyeshadow brushes as much because you don't want to mix a lot of colors. But if you don't have that many, then you really should keep these clean. All the other brushes I'm going to be showing you are pretty much going to be face makeup brushes, and all of those brushes need to be kept extremely clean. If you have acne, if you don't have acne, it will really just help your skincare to keep your brushes clean. I like to use this Clinique makeup remover spray for my brushes. It disinfects and it works so well. I'm going to post a video of showing you guys how I clean out all my brushes and the tips and tricks I use for that, but right now I'm just going to focus on showing you guys how I use the brushes and what I use them for, but this is essential. Keep your brushes really clean. I am done with my eyeshadow. I'm going to pop on a little bit of eyeliner. I'm just going to show you guys the brush that comes in my eyeliner, which is really, you know, just a great eyeliner brush. Pretty basic. I'm going to be showing you guys a brush that I use for my face makeup. This is a great brush for face makeup. It's flat and it just goes straight across and it's very, very smooth. Now, if you use a sponge, it is going to pack in the makeup a little bit thicker than a brush will, and also with a brush it's a little bit harder to prevent streaks, but you've really got to buff it in. Now, a really key thing when using a makeup brush versus a sponge, sometimes with a sponge you can go ahead and apply it right directly to the sponge. With a makeup brush you cannot do that, and you should never do that because the makeup will seep down into the brush, and not only will it take away a lot of your product, but it also can cause the brush to not last as long because the makeup gets stuck in there, and when you go to clean it, it's a lot harder to get the makeup out of the bottom part than it is the top. So when doing that, you're just going to apply your makeup to your face, however much you use, and then you're going to go in with your brush. You can do 2 different motions. You can first get the makeup into place, and then you can dab it in.
Saturday night in the summer, sundown and they all come out. Lamborghinis and they rented hummus. The party's on, so they're heading down.
Now, when it comes to applying foundation, I'm actually one of the people that prefer to use a makeup brush versus a sponge. I just think that it has a lot more control, and I can apply it evenly to even my neck, all the places that I want to. So that being said, is a foundation brush essential in your makeup bag? No, not really. You can pretty much get the same effects and you can switch it out for a sponge. I actually keep both in my makeup bag just because I prefer to apply my foundation with this type of a brush, and then I use this for my concealer. And now I'm going to show you the sponges I keep in my makeup bag. So I use this sponge to blend in my concealer. I've really preferred to use a sponge for this particular part of my makeup routine.
'Cause with my arms around you, there's no need to care. We don't fit in well. We are just ourselves.
Okay, so now that my concealer is laid down, I'm going to contour my face. Okay, so if you don't contour, you do not really need this type of a brush, but this is a pretty essential brush if you're going to be cream contouring your face. If you're going to be contouring your face with powders, you're going to use a different type, but for cream contour, you're going to want this type of a brush. It really just helps to blend in that color really evenly, and it helps to just make it all look really seamlessly. If you're going to be contouring with a powder, you're going to want this type of an angled brush, and it's a lot softer and a lot less packed in there, and you're going to be creasing the angles of your face. So this is a great brush for powder contour, and this is the type of brush you're going to be using for cream contour.
What you do and who'd you know inside the world of beautiful people? Champagne and rolled up nose, breathing up some broken holes, surrounded but still alone. Let's leave the party. That's not who we are. We are not beautiful. Yeah, that's not who we are.
Okay, so if you're not the type of person that ever contours your face, really, you don't really need either of these brushes in your everyday makeup routine. Okay, so switching off of brushes again and going to sponges, I'm going to show you guys the sponge that I use for my powder. Okay, so I use a different sponge for my concealer and my powder. I like my powder to stay really dry, and I do not wet my powder brush because I have found that it makes me look a lot cakier. So when I keep the dry products really dry and the wet products wet, it always just works better for me. So I'm going to go in with some powder. That you're going to need in your makeup bag, and that is fluffy brushes. Okay, so two different types of fluffy brushes, and I would recommend having both of them. I use one of them to go ahead and get all of my baking away and just kind of blend that in, and then I go in with a different one to use with bronzer and a little bit of blush. I do not like to use the same ones because this brush is a little bit smaller, as you guys can tell, than this one, and this one I like to keep just for removing the baking, because I find that if I start to use them for both things, sometimes when I remove the baking of my face with this same brush, and I get a little bit of bronzer under my eyes, and I do not like that effect at all. So I'm going to go ahead and let this baking set in. I'm going to just remove it from the places that I'm trying to blend out. Also, this is a really good brush if you want to go in with a powder all over your face to set all of your makeup. This is a great brush to use, and you can go with like a loose setting powder, or just a loose powder like Coty Airspun. This is a really good brush to use for that. It's really essential to keep your removing baking brush really dry so that you don't get any like clumps, because if it's at all wet or you use it for different products, it can cause the baking to look really clumpy, and you just want it to look really seamless and really smooth. Okay, so now I'm going to be going in with a little bit of bronzer. And actually, instead of that, I'm going to just show you guys kind of how to use a angled contour brush. I'm going to be doing this for my bronzer.
This is my only fear, that we become beautiful people. Top designer clothes, front row fashion shows.
Okay, so I'm also going to be using this brush to apply a little bit of a foundation, a little bit of a powder on my face, just to kind of set the makeup that I didn't use any baking powder for. Another pretty essential brush that you guys are going to be needing, and it's a angled eyeshadow brush. So there's two different types. There's the straight one and there's the angled one. Now, if you guys use a liquid eyeshadow or don't apply it with an eyeshadow, you don't really need these two different brushes. You can buy like eyebrow kits, but I like to use eyeshadow in my eyebrows, so that's why I have these two different ones, and I'm going to show you why I like two of them. So first, I'm going to go in with this angled one, and I'm going to kind of line the brow the way that I want to shape it. Okay, so now that I have the shape that I want, I'm going to do that with the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to be blending in that color and making it look really seamless with this straight across brush. Okay, so now that I have my eyebrows on and I have blended them, I'm going to be going in with an under eye shadow brush. Now, like I said, there is different types of packing brushes, and this is why I think you should keep this one in your makeup bag at all times, because this is a great one to use to put under eyeshadow. If you don't use under eyeshadow, you don't need this brush unless you're doing more extravagant looks, but I always put under eyeshadow on to kind of make my eyes look. Okay, so after you've applied the color that you want for your under eyeshadow, you need to go back in with a blending brush. Eyeshadow. If you like to line your tear duct like I do, you can do that next, or you can go ahead and go in with mascara. I'm not going to be doing lashes today. I wanted to keep this really simple and kind of like an easy look that I think anybody can do, mostly just focusing on the brushes. Okay, so after I'm done putting on my mascara, one of the very last steps that I do is I put on some highlighter. So I like to use this type of a brush to apply highlighter because it's really soft at the ends, and you don't want to cake on highlighter. You want it to brush on very smoothly. So I'm going to be going in with this highlighter and just kind of taking the tips and getting them nice and coated, and then you're just going to go ahead and go like that. Wherever you put your highlighter. This is a really good brush to use for highlighter. I also like to go in with some sparkles. Okay, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a recap. Okay, so for eyeshadow brushes, these are the essential ones to keep in your makeup routine. You're going to need a blending brush, whether it's an angled blending brush or it's not. One of these is really essential to just blend in whatever colors you're going to be using. Next, you're going to want some type of a packing brush. You can get it any of these types of packing brushes. If you're doing more extravagant looks and you need different sizes and shapes, you're going to want to have a couple of these, but just, you know, some of these are just really good packing brushes. You might need one, you might need three, you might need all of them. Okay, and then after that, for eyeshadow, you're going to need a really small packing brush just to get those fine lines in whatever eyeshadow look you're going for. And also, if you ever apply any eyeshadow underneath your eye, this is a really good brush to use for that. Okay, so now that you've done eyeshadow, let's go into foundation. So whether you apply foundation with a brush or a sponge, that's what's really going to determine whether you need this type of a brush or if you need this sponge. If you use the sponge, it's going to make it a little bit more cakey and a little bit thicker. A sponge is a little bit harder to work with because it's blending it, and you can get streaks if you're not really careful with it. But if you just do circular motions and you kind of dab it in, that type of a sponge, you'll actually start using a little bit less product because a little bit can go a long way. Okay, and after that, for concealer, I always use a sponge. I just think it makes the most flawless look. For me personally, I like to use the sponge, so that's when I prefer a sponge to a brush. And then for baking, always use a sponge for baking. Use a different sponge than the one you use for foundation or concealer, because you want it to be very, very dry so that the product isn't sticking to it and it's not sticking to your face. You want it to just lightly fluff on there. Again, you don't want to look cakey. So use a different sponge and use a sponge when you're baking. I think it's really essential. Okay, so after you're done with that, and when you go in, and if you do contour, I do, and if you use a liquid contour, you're going to want to go in with this type of an angled brush. Like I said, it really just blends everything really nicely, and it just makes it look super even, and it makes it look smooth and flawless. And if you don't use cream contour, but you still contour and use powder, going with an angled brush like this, it'll really make you look chiseled and have sharp lines. You can take it along the jaw. You can take it along the nose, you can take it in the creases. So this type of an angled brush is essential if you're going to be powder contouring, okay? So after that, after you've baked and stuff, you're going to need to use a specific brush just to remove your bake so that you don't mix up and put colors underneath the parts that you want to highlight and the parts that you want to be very, very bright. You're going to want to keep this type of a brush to remove your bake. Not too big, so it's easy to work with, and you can get it underneath your eyes and remove that bake, and you can kind of wiggle it around your nose and remove the bake anywhere you want to, and you can just brush it around. Then you're going to also need a different type of fluffy brush to apply bronzers, any type of blush, and any type of powder that you want to apply around your face. This is a really good type to use, and you're going to want it to be a really good size, not too big because then you really can't work with it as well. But you're just going to want something about this size, so about the size of your palm. About the size of your palm. And after all of that, you are going to want to be using this type of a fluffy brush. It's a lot smaller than the other two, and it's a little bit more sparse. This is a really good type to use for any type of highlighter and just kind of brushing last little things on your face to really give you that flawless, even look. So the ones that I will always keep in my makeup bag and the ones that I think are super essential are highlighting brush, this fluffy brush for all my bronzer, fluffy brush to remove my bake, contour brush, this brush to blend my eyeshadow, my packing eyeshadow brush, my under eye eyeshadow brush, my concealer brush, and my 2 sponges. So these are pretty much all of the brushes and sponges that I travel with all the time. I think they're super essential. You can, oh, I almost forgot, sorry guys. And of course, your eyebrow brush. But also, you don't have to bring this because I know probably you guys, it really depends on if you guys do eyeshadow for your eyebrows or not. So that's really going to dictate if you need these brushes, and you really could just use one of them. You don't need both. So these are pretty much all of the tools that I travel with everywhere I go. They're super essential to my makeup routine. I think that they just kind of give you the best and most flawless look. And I'll be posting a video, I think next Monday, on how I clean my brushes, or I'm going to be posting a video of a surprise. I'm not going to give it away because I have this one thing I've been working on for a while and I'd be really excited to show you guys, but I don't know if it's going to be ready yet. I hope you guys like this video. Hit the bell icon for notifications, subscribe to my channel. I post a new video pretty much every Monday at 7 p.m. I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye!